Welcome, welcome, welcome to Level Up with Google Sheets. And I know Google Sheets is one of those Google tools, and just like Excel, that people get very, very anxious and nervous. But y'all, Sarah is the queen of Google Sheets, and she will make everything plain and awesome for you. But again, this is not basics. This is leveling up with Google Sheets. So keep that in mind. If you're looking for the basic classes, we have them all on the same website. So everything for you in one spot. If you're watching us on the YouTube channel, welcome. You do not get a certificate, but you do get the knowledge. And any resource that we discuss will be underneath the video in the description. So let's get to some announcements. Who am I, you may say? I am Dr. Desiree Alexander. I'm the founder CEO of Educator Alexander Consulting, the sponsor for all of these amazing webinars. And these are all of the different ways that you can get to me. Honestly, if you can get to my website, educatoralexander.com, you can get to me. So what do we have coming up? This Thursday, we're not done with you this week. This Thursday, we have Leveling Up with Google Slides. And then we have the rest in our Level Up series. So definitely go and register. Each one has a different registration. Then we have Inclusion Hacks coming July 10th. So if you're looking to make sure that all of your technology usage is being inclusive, you do not want to miss Jessica. She has presented for us before, and she is awesome. Then I'm going to be presenting at the Teach Tech Conference. I did have to cancel one of my days, but that's okay. I'm still going to be there Thursday and Friday with a bunch of stuff. The only thing that's different is the 8 a.m. one. I'm actually going to be talking about digital breakouts during that time. Now, this is a paid event, but you can use the code FRIENDS for 20% off of registration. And then we have Creating Your Digital Library later in July. And if you've never heard Nancy Jo talk, she is a treat. And then we have Ed Change Global. The 24-hour virtual conference is back, y'all. Now, you can't apply to present anymore, but you can absolutely attend. It's literally 24 hours of sessions and games and ways to win. It is crazy insanity. And if you're like, Desiree, you're going through these really quickly, remember they're all at the same link. So you can go to that link and register for everything. Woo-hoo. Then we have Financial Literacy for Educators. That's going to round out our July. And then we have Back to School with Bunsey, August 21st with Rochelle, Infusing Digital Reading and Writing Tools any way that you teach with Dr. Hines. And then I'm going to be at TCCA, hopefully in person in Houston, Texas. We cannot wait. And that's completely free. And then we have Google Educator Certifications Panel. Somebody requested it, and we will give it to you. Notice Sarah is back on here too. But man, there's some amazing people on this. I'm so happy they all agreed to come and tell you about Google Educator certifications with trainer, innovator, and coach. If you're interested in any of those or just want to hear what they have to say, come join us in December. We have a couple of more webinars that we are planning right now, but that is it for now. So guess what? I feel like we should have some music like dun, 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 dun. It's that time, y'all. It's that time to get started leveling up with Google Sheets.
Again, Desiree, what an introduction that you give. It's awesome. The excitement. I hope you guys feel the excitement that Desiree is sharing, and hopefully as I get going on this, you'll see how excited I get about Google Sheets, because like Desiree said, it's one of those tools that in my conversations with teachers, a lot of the teachers that I talk with, like for Google Sheets, they're just kind of like, you know, I get like that we have to use them for certain things, but like we don't really use them with our kids. We shouldn't use them. It doesn't work and all that kind of stuff. And that was actually one of my first big thinking conversations that I had with a teacher when I moved down into my tech integration role at the elementaries. It was a third grade teacher. And she was like, yeah, but like, I have to do more than just like make a sheet, right? And that spurred on a big conversation, and it really kind of helped me shape a mind frame So this is the presentation, what you see on my screen. It is a Google Sheet because I'm a big believer in, if I'm going to show you this tool and I'm going to sing its praises, I'm going to use the tool itself to sing the praises. So welcome to Leveling Up with Google Sheets. Like Desiree said, all of the information about this presentation, as well as the docs one from last week, the upcoming slides one on Thursday, and then the 3 more in the future, can all be found at the website that Desiree created for this series called Leveling Up with Google. It's got the flyer on the top so that you can easily see all of your dates. We've nested the presentation resource from docs. You can rewatch the video or watch it for the first time if you did not or could not attend last week. Perfectly okay, it's out there. You're welcome to rewatch it. Here's the presentation resource, and then I've got the presentation resource also linked right here for Sheets, and we'll keep repeating this process as we go through. So once Desiree's got the YouTube video ready for us, we'll get that linked on here. You'll have easy access to it, as well as she will send out an email with all the good information. When you click this presentation resource, it's going to take you to this Wakelet collection. And this year I decided, yes, you'll have the presentation resource itself, but sometimes having to go through and find where the resources typically are nested at the very end, I thought I would just take a little bit of a different twist on it. So once you find this Wakelet, and you don't have to have a Wakelet account to access this, it's public. You can come to the website. Here is the Google Sheet that I will be working in and out of right here. And then as we go through, just like I did with docs, there are several other sheets that I'll be using because I like to keep things kind of in a straightforward manner. So if I say, hey, let's look at creating some formulas, we'll probably jump to a formula sheet. And then if I say, hey, let's talk about Data Studio, we'll go to a different sheet that has the information for Data Studio on there. But all of those links are all in here, as well as I've kind of outlined some of the bigger places that I've used to create the resource that I have made for us today. And then finally, a little chunk down here, where are some places that you can go besides what I am sharing today to, if you want to level up your use of Google Sheets. I've got several different resources here. I can't say enough about Ben Collins. He is who I would consider a Sheets wizard. That's why I use the little emoji down there of a little wizard. He just has such an easy way of explaining things. And some of the items that I have found to be complicated when reading about them in other places, I go to Ben and he's got great information, really nice, quick, easy to follow directions, as well as some videos. And then finally, reaching out to Dr. Desiree or myself. You can see both of our blogs and our websites, as well as our Twitter handles are right here. At any point, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out and contact one of us, and we would be happy to help you. And with that, I think most people know who I am, I hope. I'm not trying to be presumptuous, but I do want to jump into Sheets because I messaged with Desiree a little bit last week, and I was just like, oh my gosh, my brain is whirling. Like, I've got so many ideas, so many different things that I want to show people. I'm having a real hard time with narrowing in and focusing down on what are some of the really, really useful ones. So I hope that I have and will highlight particular ones that I find that I'm hoping that would be very helpful for teachers. If I don't get to something and you find it to be something that you're really interested in, but maybe I don't have enough information in here, again, reach out to me and I will be happy to follow up with you and give you some more information. So without further ado, my name is Sarah Kiefer. I am a Google certified innovator, trainer, and educator, levels 1 and 2. And Desiree was actually my innovator coach from NYC 19. And I've had a great time working with her and learning from her and doing these webinars last summer as well as this summer. And guys, I just have to say, I love helping teachers. I love helping teachers and their students I love having conversations with teachers. A lot of times being able to bounce those ideas back and forth. And Sheets is a big tool. The only way that you're going to say, I have no use for Sheets, is if you don't try. Because what I'm going to show you, Sheets is a spreadsheet, but you can utilize this spreadsheet in so many different ways, and you can manipulate it and pull the data and do that or this. And so if you have questions along the way, I'm trying to keep it in that middle range. I think you should have some basic Sheets knowledge. We're going to level up with it. But for those of you that are already really solid in your Sheets use, I'm probably not going to get to too much of these real high advanced. Somebody had put in the form, which thank you for filling that out. And they said a phrase, and I was just like, oh, I don't even know that I'm qualified to answer that question. So keep in mind, like, we're going to use all of our basic tools, and we're going to level them up into a lot of different things. So without further ado, let's jump in. And here is something that I just recently learned. I'm absolutely in love with this. And I'm going to give all the credit to Ben Collins, who actually gives credit to another guy who showed and like worked out this thinking. So here's my presentation. First tab on this Google Sheet. And I'm like, well, I really want to have like a table of contents, right? Helps people organize. Yes, I have all my tabs down here at the bottom, but are you ready for this? Desiree, let me know if you've seen this before or not, because I had literally one of those moments of like mind blown. Clicking this little plus sign opens up this whole chunk of columns. Now I just grouped 2 of them together. You could group multiple ones together, and it's as simple as selecting. You could right click, 2-finger tap, go to the menu. But when you do that, pull this up and you say group them, and it gives you this little condensed, see, it's going to condense them all. And then when I click that minus button, it shrinks them all. Now, I don't really actually want to do that. I just want to have B and C. So I'm going to ungroup these and see this little chunker right here. It actually then hides that. So it gives you that ability to have information in your sheet without it always having to be staring you in the face, because that can feel very cluttered and it can feel like a lot. And then what I've also done in here is I've linked each of these to their particular tabs. So if one of these really stands out to you and it's something that you want to dive into deeper, I'm going to go through these and let Desiree know in the chat if you really are dying to see one of these over another, and maybe we can jump around. I'm not opposed to jumping around, and Sarah, we really want to see X, Y, or Z. Let me know, we can jump through there. But this table of contents doesn't always have to show. It doesn't have to be a table of contents. I saw one example where there was a graph or a chart along with a map. And what the guy had done was he had this collapsible table of contents, and over on the side where it collapsed, he had where he actually got all of that information. So it was a really cool way to focus like the graphic, like we want to look at this, but now you can see where all of this stuff is coming from. On mine, I just used it as a table of contents. Love it. So if you're looking for the basics, I've got it right here to our intro from last year. And then as we come down, these are each of the tabs that I have nested in this Google Sheet as my presentation. So we're going to start off with something that's kind of simple, but I think it's a very useful one. It's a checklist. Now you can click on the tabs down here at the bottom, or you can click on this cell right here and notice how it gives you like a very small drop down. Just click on that highlighted and it's going to take you to the checklist tab. Now this one, again, I'm going to give credit to Ben Collins. He has a real nice, simple checklist template. So here's a tip. You don't have to start everything off from scratch. A lot of people share out stuff. There's a lot of really good sheets out there already that you can go and you can grab and you can play around with and you can learn from, or take what they've started and then move on from there. So what we're going to do is the directions are all up here. So I'm going to actually go ahead and open that up. And just like I did on last week with docs, I'm going to put this over here because this is how I learn a lot about sheets. is I learn from other people. I see what they do, and here's the example that we're going to work through. Now you might even feel like he's going like 2 or 3 steps up from a regular Google Sheet, and he is. But the basic here is a checklist. And how many times do we, with our students, or for ourselves, honestly, or for any task, like really work through a checklist? And a lot of times, some of these projects, they're so overwhelming, you don't know where to start, or your students don't know where to start. Create the checklist with them. Have a sheet up there and show them, okay, so this is how we're going to insert these checkboxes. These are the steps that we have to go through, or what do you think is the next step that we have to go through? And then Ben has also put in here a progress bar, which is called a Sparkline. And he uses how these checklist or these little checkboxes to indicate how the progress goes, which again, for those of us that are very, very visual, you can see how far along you are. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and get moving on this. So when you scroll down, so we've got to have a sheet, and notice he writes this out very clearly. So we have a checklist title. So here's our checklist title. And I'm going to leave a blank row. And then on row 3, we're going to put in progress. Leave 4 blank. Again, just following straight along. I didn't want to recreate these directions because Ben has put them out there so cleanly and so simply that I think I really got to give him kudos for doing this. And I really want to model, like, this is how I learn stuff with sheets. I don't have this all encompassing brain that knows everything. I don't. I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly seeking things out. And then see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. On row 5, put the headers for the checklist table. Let's do status here. And then we're going to do step here. And right now we're not going to worry about the fonts. We're not going to worry about the size of the cells and all that kind of stuff. We're really just going to jump into creating this. And we're not actually going to create the whole checklist because we're going to go with that. Now, what we're going to do is we're also going to put in some checkboxes. So what I've done right here is veering off a little bit from Ben's directions. I've selected 5 cells. And to insert these checkboxes, it's as simple as this. Go to insert. Got in my brain, that's what I'm thinking. I want to insert, and I want to insert checkbox. So there you go. Sheets puts it in there for you. Now I am going to align this to the right. And then there we go. I've got a checkbox. And it's just clicking on it. It's doing nothing more than that. It's just clicking the checkbox. Now, what he's got here is we've got to do some conditional formatting. Conditional formatting is wonderful. It's scary at first, and you feel like you're going to mess things up. But again, he's got very easy directions right here. So we're going to apply conditional formatting across an entire row to turn the row red when it is marked done. So highlight all the rows with your checkboxes. So right now we just want to highlight these 5. And then we're going to go into conditional formatting. So conditional formatting, format up here, conditional formatting. Or if you have a right-click mouse, you can right-click on it, or 2-finger tap on your trackpad if you want. So then you're in conditional formatting right here. And then he says, like, let's select conditional formatting to add this custom formula is. So here's the range. So these are the cells, the rows and the cells that we're going to apply this formula to. And here is our format cells if. This is the rule. So we have to click on this little drop box, this little shark tooth right here. And we find what he's saying, custom formula is all the way at the bottom. And you can see there are other predetermined, the date is before or after if you were using some sort of date with these checkboxes, numbers if you're, when we get into talk about a gradebook, greater than, less than, equal to, not equal to. Really, really good. Those math teachers out there, get your wheels a turning for all those different ways that you can use this conditional formatting and work with your students and use this to really kind of highlight these different values. But again, custom formula is, and then we have to type in And you see it right here, what he's got right here. You literally just type it here. A or equals $A6 equals true. So we've got the formula in there, and then setting the formula rules to light red background, dark red text, and strike through. So here's our formatting style. So we're going to do a light red background. We're going to do a dark red text. And then we're going to do the strike through. Now you've got bold, italicized, underline. You can make it look like whatever you want. This is just Ben's example. Maybe use school colors. Maybe use green because it's Google Sheets. And then you're going to say done. So you can see here is your rule. And what I always like to do then is I got to test this out, right? Let's see how we do. Let's close that out. Huh. Okay, well, it's not working. Let's go back in and check out our conditional formatting.
Jane put something in the chat that you may want A22 instead of A6.
Oh, yes. Yes. Not A22. Thank you. Thank you. Done. Now let's try it. Perfect. Thank you. Jane, I think you said. See how it's work? Like, I don't even have any steps over here and it's working. That's exactly what we wanted it to do. Beautiful. See how we're helping each other out? I love it. Okay, now Sparkline. Again, we got to step it up a notch. Creating these checkboxes is super easy. The conditional formatting, and that's the next step up. Now let's do this whole Sparkline thing here too. And I got to remember, it's not A6, it's A22. All right, you ready? Let's go to Sparkline function in cell B3. So now we're over in B, but we're moving over. So that would actually be B19. Okay, we got to keep that in mind. No, B. Okay, got to just keep our numbers. So now we're going to, let's see what's going on here. So where are we? Going to the charts. So we're going to insert, maybe I need to click in here, insert a chart. And we need to find Sparkline in here. Oh, shoot. See, and this is what you do when you don't remember. Let's get rid of this. You find your little help menu, right? And you do Sparkline. See how easy that is? Again, I'm not perfect. I'm not a Sheets wizard. I know a lot and I'm willing to share a lot, but I'm also willing to try. And sometimes that means I forget where these things are. So I'm going to just click on here and there you go. You're just typing it in here. So we've got what Ben says up here. So we're going to count if, and then A22. Thank you, Jane. Oops, not the, and you see how as I'm typing this is the other thing that I really have come to value with Sheets is as I'm typing these formulas, it color codes them based on, this is like an orange color, and it's telling me these are the cells that you've selected. It really helps me make those connections because sometimes these formulas like this doesn't really mean a whole lot in my brain. But being able to see this as I'm typing it, rock on. So then I'm going to put the little comma, true. There's my little parentheses. Here's another comma. I'm going to use that bracket. Again, I'm just talking out loud because that is what I do. Chart, type, make sure your spelling is correct. That's the other thing that gets me often is spelling. And then we are going to put in the little semicolon. And you see how it's got like that little bracket down there. That really does tell you that you are working with formulas. And notice as I'm typing here, it's also typing it out up here. So it just be aware that it's in more than one place. I don't want that to freak you out or to throw you off. And then we're going to put max count A B 22, right, Jane? And see, I'm learning from Ben. And then color 1, comma, what does he have? I think he has red. And then it's red, bracket, parentheses. Let's test this out. Let's see how it goes. Hey, look at that. I mean, it's there. Well, let's see what happens. Does it change? I'm actually going to make that a little bit bigger, merging that. Now let's see. Oh boy. This is where it's not true yet. So my Sparkline shouldn't be counted. Let's go back into my formula and let's do a little comparison here. A22 true. Maybe we just need to go to A26 and B26. Let's try that. All right. Anybody got any suggestions here? See, as Ben's doing it, as he's clicking it, it's getting larger.
Inky says figuring out mistakes is just as valuable and everything correct the first time. I love that you are thinking out loud. Jane says, what does he say at the bottom with the percentage?
At the bottom with the percentage. Final formula goes in cell C3 next to the Sparkline. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have merged that, but all right, so C3. I wonder if I can just copy and paste this. Let's check this out. Copy, paste. But we've got to make sure that we are doing not A6, A22. We got to come over to B22. I promise you this works. Only I could phone a friend, right? You guys are my friends. It's interesting. And you're right, figuring these out, these tend to be those puzzles that I don't like to let go of and I want to really work with. He doesn't. Interesting. Maybe that's one that we're going to have to just put on the back burner and come back to or rework at. So I apologize. It really does work. You can see that Ben does it here and it looks very lovely. I'll show you another way that for those of us that aren't real interested in actually like building all of these formulas, I'll show you a different way that you can achieve the same idea, and it is pre-built, but also know that he's already got a checklist template that you can go ahead and take and use and share with your students. And if you're one of those people, like dig into it with your kids.
Hey everyone, it's Sarah. Just wanted to say thank you for your patience during the webinar today, and I'm cutting in and letting you know that I did not let the Sparkline beat me. After we were all done and wrapped, I literally walked out of the room and sat down and took a breather. And then I said, I'm going to figure this out. I'm not going to let it beat me. And here's how I solved my problem. And I kind of want to laugh because I skipped over one of the steps that Ben had said, and it's not a step that I would have thought had any impact. And it just goes to show you how you have to know your formulas and you have to be willing to play around. And I mean, I guess you have to be willing to fail sometimes. And I'm failing forward and I'm sharing with you how I figured out where I messed up. So you can see at the bottom what I did. I came back to Ben's website. I even opened his template. I made a copy of it for myself. and going through and checking out like what did I do wrong? How can I fix this? I was scrutinizing his template, his formulas in here. I even created a new tab that I'm leaving in the presentation called Sarah's Checklist Sparkline. And I wrote in all of the steps, figured out. I wanted to figure this out because I wanted to prove to myself, number one, that I can do this, and to show you guys too that Sparklines are, they're not hard to create. You just have to make sure that you do them correctly, right? Okay, so here's how I figured out what my problem was. So this is where we left it and moved on to the Gradebook, and then Inky, thank you for helping me out with that. So in here, these things, the conditional formatting worked wonderfully, right? I'm like, well, I don't have any text in there. So, I wonder if it's striking through the text, right? So I went ahead and I just typed words, just wanted to have, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, look, that changed. Having like a word in there to not having a word in there. So if I type in word, I was like, oh, that's strange. So I'm like, well, what happens now? I didn't put in the words. I didn't put step 1, step 2, step 3. And that's something that Ben had said, write down column 1, the corresponding column 2, that row, like let's do the words, get it in there. And guys, like, oh my gosh, like I just wanted to smack my head. So I wanted to come back and share that I was not completely off base. I just skipped over one of the easy steps. So I'm hoping that this helps. And thank you again, Desiree, for tucking this in there. And I hope to see you guys again soon and play around, learn, fail forward. I certainly am. So have a great day, evening, whatever it is, and I will see you soon.
All right. So the next one that we're going to jump to is a gradebook. Hey, most of us are teachers here. And I know that a lot of us do have grading programs that calculate all of our grades out for us. Some of us, though, and I was a teacher like this too, I still wanted my own. I always had that worry, well, what if it didn't work one day? Or what if I couldn't log in? Or what if any 8,000 different things that, you could go wrong with digital programs or anything like that. But gradebooks also too are a great way of allowing you to be able to manipulate data for your own students. And not all programs that your district or your school provides to you is going to allow you to do that. A Google Sheet will. And again, guys, there are gradebook templates out there, but I also want to incorporate some of the different ways that we can really level up our use of Google Sheets by creating a gradebook. So I've already got one right here. I've got a brand new gradebook, right? And we're going to do some things with it and actually make it look like a gradebook. So what we're going to do is, it's a blank Google Sheet, how it starts off with. And think about the various columns that you would have in your gradebook. And we're just going to start filling those out. So you're going to have, let it load, yep, student name. Now you might subscribe to the last name needs to be in one column and first name needs to be in a second column. I am a big fan of that. And then student first name. And then the next thing that I always want to see right with my student is their grade average. Now you can use whatever words that you want, whatever feels best for you. So we got the name, we got the average, and then we would go ahead and here's like activity 1, here's activity 2, activity 3. Now what I did was I created some what I consider starter data. So I'm not sitting here typing in a lot of stuff because that might be a little bit of a waste of time. So I've got 23 students and I've got 4 activities that I've got grades for. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to just copy this information and I'm going to put student 1 as their first name. And then you can already see that I've got to do a little bit of adjusting. So I'm actually going to just make this my average column. And I'm going to move it where I want it to be. Now, average, I'm going to make it a bit smaller. Let's do last one. Now, here's tip, trick, resource. I've got this. If this was just something just like student 1 on down, because I'm just using generic data, if I pull that little blue square that you can see in the bottom corner, you see how it automatically populates those numbers for me, and it does it right in a row. Love that. So we've got a last name, we've got a first name here, we've got all of this good data. Now let's call this math test 1, and we're going to call this math homework day 5. We're just going to give them some titles, math practice worksheet, and then let's say quick quiz. Now, there's a lot of different thinkings on this. You could wrap the text, you can do a couple different things. What I'm going to show you is how you can adjust the text rotation, where it is going. So here on this particular icon on my icons, I like to think of this as my icon toolbar. If I click on that shark tooth, it gives me all these different A's of things that you can, options that you have. So if I want to tilt it up, look what it does. Very nice for me. Now, I would do all of mine the same. And you can even, it's rotating it at a 45-degree angle if you want to change that. Here you've got some other various customizations if you wanted. So you see how those are now different. You can tell, hey, math teachers, you're talking about like angles and all that. Maybe this is something. But let's say I changed it to this one and I'm like, well, I don't remember what that is. I can also use my little paint formatter, clicking on this. I'm going to click my paint roller, and I want to format this one the same, and it tilts it and makes it the same. Then what I can do is adjusting. You see how this is becoming a lot more like what a traditional grade book that might be that you go out and you buy, and you go, well, Sarah, this is really not anything super exciting. No, it's not, but it is also showing you that you can rotate the text, you can make these things look really however you want. And here's where, and this does go to what one of the questions was, one of the responses from the form was doing some formulas. And we're going to do some formulas and hopefully get your brain going and understand how you can even do more advanced formulas. So obviously averaging is an incredibly easy one, right? And with averages, it's just going to give me the average of these scores, which does that really equate to their grade? Probably not in too many people's brains, right? We have to know what these are all out of. So I'm going to insert a row above, right? And we need to know that this math test was out of 10 points. This one was out of, I think it was 25. This one was a 50. And then this one was just a 5. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that this row doesn't get mixed in with my students' grades down here. So I'm going to click on the 2 and I want to go to view and I want to freeze these. I want to freeze up to row 2. So now as I scroll, do you see how those 2 rows up there stay? They're not going anywhere. So I can always compare, like, what was student 23, like how far off were they? All that kind of good stuff. Now, here's where formulas come in to play. A lot of us can sit down and write out formulas. Like if I said, what is the area of a square? A lot of us could write that down or say it. If I asked you what the Pythagorean theorem is, some of us would probably be able to write that out. But if you go and you find that, Google it, and you see that formula, a lot of times you're going to be able to bring that into sheets. So keep that in mind too, is how you write it out. And this is how I've talked with a lot of teachers. When you go to do formulas, they can feel very scary in sheets, but honestly, it's really like writing it out on paper. So for example, over here, we're going to start out real easy. What if we just wanted to total up student ones and so on? I just want their total number of points, right? So I'm actually going to take that out of here. Let's just say in this column, which I'm going to highlight just a little bit, just so that we can see it as different. I just want to know what the total is here. So mathematically, you would add, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, add up those 4 grades and your total gets over here. This is accomplished in sheets in a very simple way. And again, we're starting off really, really simple here. But once you know that, you can really go to the moon with this. So what I would do is, you have to think just a little bit backwards, put your equal sign. And again, notice, do you see that little bracket down there at the bottom? This is the value of a sheet formula. So you put your equal sign in and Sheets automatically picks up like, hey, this person's going to do a formula. And what I would do is, yes, you could sit here and type 10 plus 25 plus 35 plus 5, just like you would on a calculator. But what I want to do is be able to add up all of these cells. So I'm going to click this cell and notice it populates that over there for me. And then again, if we're just adding up the totals, I'm going to put in a plus sign. I'm going to click this one, another plus sign, and then this one, another plus sign, and then this last one. Now you can see right here, it's doing a couple things for me. It's showing me the formula, D3 plus E3 plus F3 plus G3. Wonderful, that's what I needed. It also, in this little speech bubble up here, is telling you how much that all is. It's adding it up for you already. So all I have to do now is hit my return or your enter button, and it's going to fill that in. Now, Sheets has become so intelligent at this point. It never used to do this, but now it's saying, hey, I see that you've entered a formula. Might we suggest going ahead and auto-filling this? And I can either accept it or I can reject it. And I go, wow, thanks, Sheets. Now I don't even have to like pull that formula down. I have to copy and paste. I don't have to do anything. I just with a little click of a check mark, boom, there you go. You've added them all up. Okay, well, that's great. That's still not really your student's grade, right? And I probably will need to know what they're all completely out of in order to do the averages, right? Like that's how grades are figured. So here's another way that you could accomplish the exact same formula. And it doesn't matter if you're going by row or you're going down a column. I'm going to select those 4 because those are your total points, right? And then I'm going to come up to this Greek letter. I think it's Greek, and it tells me that these are my functions. So I'm going to click on the little shark tooth, and it's going to give me some predetermined, pre-outlined, pre-made type formulas. And all I want to do is like sum them, right? Don't look too far ahead. You'll get overwhelmed or you'll get too excited. But if you really want to go off on a tangent, go for it. So you click the sum, it's going to pop it into that next empty cell. And you can see right here, it is adding up D2 through G2, and it's giving you a total, which I agree with. So I'm going to hit enter. Wonderful. Done. So these are the total number of points my students have earned out of this 90. Sarah, again, that still is not their grade. Did anybody notice the second function over here, the second formula over here on my little list? Average. How fantastic is that? You could sit here all day long and you could say, okay, I need to take this divided by this number, then I use this one divided by this number and all that. You could do that, right? Totally possible. We all know how that works. But you don't have to. Here's where I'm going to delete this whole column, okay? So now that you understand how to write the formula, and we kept it simple, use that to go kind of crazy. But over here, what we're going to do is we're going to click in student 1 cell. I want the average this time. Okay, so let's click on my functions list over here again. It's not letting me click. There we go. Had a little bit of a lag here. Okay, come to my functions list. And what if I put average? Now it's going to give me, again, equals average. I've got my parentheses, and now I've got my little bracket that I got to put my formula inside of. Now, I've only got 4 assignments. Chances are you're going to have a ton of assignments, right? Throughout the whole quarter or semester or year, however you set your grade book up. So now I have to tell Sheets what I want to do the average of. So here is, I'm clicking on D, and I could say just those 4 grades. Is that really the average of these kids' grades? No, but it's the average of these particular numbers. So let's see what it does. So again, it's doing that automatic thinking. Okay, so keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. It's going to do some automatic thinking. Now, again, that average will create it for you, but it's just giving you the average of those particular grades, not their actual grade average. So that's not what we wanted. So let's go ahead and let's write our own formula. So up here, we're going to sum, my math peeps out there. We're going to build this out, and I'm going to select this first grade, and I'm going to go all the way over to my last grade. I lost it. So we're going to do D2 through, what is that, Y? Yeah. All right. So D2 to Y2. Sometimes it gets a little bit tough going out to the side. So I'm just going to add up all of these grades right here. And again, please don't think for me on this one, Sheets. So if I added in another grade that was worth 25, do you see the number changing? 250. So you see that, right? Let's change this maybe to total. So we all see that working out here. So it'll, whatever grades I put in all the way out. Now I'm actually gonna, okay, so here, now we have to really figure out our students' average, right? So what do we have to do? We have to add them up and then divide by the total number possible, right? So let's build that formula. So equals, and we have to add up all of our students' scores. So we're going to put this in parentheses. And yeah, parentheses, sum of, and then this is D3 because we've moved down a row. And remember that it went all the way out to Y3. So it's going to select student 2 or 1's all of their scores all the way out because they're in row 3. And I'm going to first get that. Oh, gotta put my end bracket here. So again, I already know, like I added it up, it's 75 points. That's what I know that they've gotten. Close that bracket. And then I want to divide it by what? Total number of points. So again, just like if I were to work this out on paper, I add up all their scores, divide by the total number of points, and that score is going to be this total right here. Now, so I've divided it by the number of points. So collected all the points, divided by, and that gives me that the answer already. Does that look right? Looks right to me. So I'll hit enter. And you go, oh, well, Sheets, you didn't think for me this time. No, and the answer probably is because this is a different formula than this one right here. But let's employ some other Google magic, and I can take this square. You see that little square changes my cursor to a plus sign, and I'm going to drag it down. I'm going to drag it all the way down through here. Now, why are some of these? Oh, I know what happened. So we don't want to do that. So let's copy this, and we are going to paste. And then you see this little clipboardy thing that comes up. So what it's doing is, because I did across the row and then up one cell, it's going down to row 4 and then going up one cell. So it's actually kind of a little bit wonky. And here's where you have to know the math. And this is when you work with kids, you have to know the math. You have to understand how it works. Sheets is just not going to magically do it all for you. But this little clipboard, what I want to do is I just want to paste, I think, the values. And why does everybody have the exact same grade? There's no way that I randomized that. Oh, Sarah. Good heavens. I'll get it one of these days, guys. This is also why I am a big fan of templates, right? Probably losing a lot of people. Let's do format only. Nope.
Inky says that you forgot to tell it the relative value. And Carissa says, try doing $C3 in the formula, but then she came back and said $C2.
$C2. We'll try it. And then copy. Let's just paste it on a few of these. No, I think what I need to do is move this 90.
So Inky says $C2 and then fill down.
$C2. And then fill down. I actually think what I want to do is we're going to do this again, guys. Probably lost people. They're like, Sarah doesn't know what she's talking about. Okay, so I'm going to insert another column left. We're going to do total points. And this is what you got to do. Sometimes you just got to total earned. So here's where we're going to, let's sum all of this kids all the way out to Y3. Fill that all in. This is going to be the sum of all of this, F2 out to Y2, oops, putting down, add that, and then the average is going to be, right, this number divided by that number times 100. I forgot that part here, so we could do, not average, we would just do 75 divided by 90 times 100. Whew. Makes me feel a little better. Okay, sometimes you got to think through these things. So here's your average column. And what I'm also going to do is I am going to go to format. And for my number, I only want to see 2 decimal places out. So format, number, and then we're going to just have the 2 decimal places right there. So why? And then if I need to make changes, which I do, the $sign thing here. Okay. We'll figure this out. But it can work as a gradebook. And this is also why you see a lot of people choose not to do a lot of these crazy kind of things. And they do opt to use their school provided gradebook. But playing with these formulas and learning about these formulas, it really is a nice way of using sheets. Now, I will also say that in the sheets template area, if you go to your drive and you go to, I want to create a new Google Sheet from a template, they have a ready to go gradebook that you could always use and then customize. Right here, you click on it. They have a whole bunch of other things here. Make sure you explore this and then give it a second to load. it creates a lot of those formulas and everything for you already.
Sarah, we had Inky that wanted to speak on what you were doing with the averages.
Sure.
Inky? Oh, she says that her mic is not working, so she needs to leave and come back.
Okay. We can always hop back to it. All right, so Google's template gradebook is here. It even creates some of these charts as well and gives you a great idea of your students, where they're at these moments. So now that we've had two kind of iffy areas, let's move on to a different way of thinking about this. And this is definitely more of an individual use, the professional learning log. So in my district, we're told like you have to have so many CEUs that I think most of teachers have, like you have certain requirements that you have to do. I got tired of trying to track it on paper, and I'd leave it at school, or it'd be at home, or it'd be in a binder and I was at a meeting and I needed that paper and all these different things. So I really turned to try to find a digital way of keeping track of this stuff. But then I also, in a way, like needed to know at the moment how much I could potentially earn. So how much I had earned, how much I still needed to earn. So what I created for myself was a professional learning log, and I chose to use Google Sheets. And I've got a little template for everyone if you are interested in using it. And I already went ahead and made a copy of this for me. So if you click here, you're going to get a copy of where I'm starting from. And if you click here, you're going to see what I do as I go. So this is the one I'm going to pull up. And I've already formatted the sheet in a lot of different ways. So remember that little plus sign? So when I click on that plus sign, I've got a lot of information here. And that's why I did not want it all showing at the very beginning. So when you look at this, I've got my max amount of credit that I am allowed to earn. I've got a little table of contents that's hidden currently. I have all of the different categories and then the different activities that I could choose to do with my professional learning. And then you can see these are highlights that I remember. These are ones that I want to look at. And you can see as you go down, and then it'll give me a total down here at the bottom. Okay, so let's backtrack a tad. So again, I've expanded this if I choose to, and it gives me the criteria and the verification, like what do I need to turn in order to get the credit for doing these. And this all I just pulled off of our district document that they've given to us. And again, I already pre-filled this in. You can have your own copy of it and you can look at it, adjust it to what your district requirements are, wording and all that kind of stuff if you choose to. But I'm going to minimize that menu because this is really what these are the activities and this is how much I've earned. Now, each of these is its own activity, so I can't really track it on here. This is just my outward facing totals. So what I did was I created these sheets at the bottom, these little tabs at the bottom that match the different activities. And what they are, they're all pretty much the exact same thing. It tells me like to put in like what the activity name is, the date of it, how many hours I was there, and then it'll calculate my CEUs for me. If I'm given a certificate digitally, I would put a link to it here, and then I can always put in other notes. I created a template sheet that I can easily just duplicate. You see that little shark tooth that my cursor is hanging over? When I click on that, I can duplicate it. If I want to push it out to something else, I can copy it out, do a couple different little things here. So when I'm ready to make a new sheet because I'm doing a different activity that I've not currently created a tab for, I just copy it. Now, an easy way, when you only have 3 items here, it's really easy to jump back and forth between those. But once you start getting into multiple tabs, it kind of becomes a pain to go from here to there, or I've got something and it's all the way down at the other end. Yes, you can scroll, and yes, you can do that. This little hamburger menu is a little hidden gem for those of you that haven't ever noticed this. When you click on it, it actually gives you a real nice list of table of contents look for all of the sheets, all of the tabs that you have in this particular Google Sheet. And you can easily jump to any of them. So I want to jump to my Building District Workshops tab, which is the one right next door. And what I want to do is be able to quickly access this so I can put down my PD credit that I need to collect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this unique URL. This is the location of this particular sheet. I'm going to copy that. And when I come back to my cumulative view, I'm going to just click on my Building District Workshop, which it names the same. I'm going to insert a link, which you can do by clicking on Insert. Go to Insert Link here, match that icon. There's a little chain link over here, or my favorite is the keyboard shortcut, Control K, Command K if you're on a Mac. And then I can do a couple different things. I can, let me do this again, just so it's up a little bit higher. So I'm going to click on Building District Workshop, Control K, and then I can paste that link that I just copied. Or the other really nice thing here is it gives me a drop down. Here are all of the tabs. So I can easily just say, hey, I want you to connect to this one. So I click on it, I say apply. It's now going to look like a hyperlink, and it will take me directly to that tab. Now, all that does, it's just an easier navigation. So I can do that for this one too. I can do it very quickly. Boom, apply, so on and so forth. So that's one aspect of this. And I would do this for all of the activities. As I go through, if I chose to do my national boards, I would then create a tab, then link it. I'm not going to go through and make all of these tabs if I don't ever end up using them. So that's one piece to it. And then what I want to do is just go into Building and District Workshops. Let's say that I did something, the date, let's call it today. I was there for 2 hours. And then the way my district does it is each hour counts for 1/10 of a CEU. So here's where we bring in those formulas. So what I want to do is it's going to equal this number, and I need to make it so that it's worth 1/10, right? So we would divide it by, and it creates that formula for me. Now you can center it, you can do all that kind of stuff. What I also want it to do is I want it to give me my cumulative up here. And so you can see I've added in a note on this one here so you can get a little bit more information. I want to be a cumulative count of everything that's in this column. So again, formula, I want it to sum this cell, and I want it to go all the way down, and I'll just pick to D30. So it's summing all of these. And I want to do the same thing over here. It's going to sum this cell all the way down to D30. So I've got 2 hours, which translates to 2/10. And if I were to just go through and put in a couple more PDs, right? I haven't attached any formulas here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab that little corner, and I'm going to pull those down. Those have now calculated out my CEUs based on the number of hours. If I was wrong, I could come back and change this, and it changes those numbers for me immediately. Now, here's where I really found that it was very helpful. So I want to take this number and I want to make it show up on my first sheet. Okay, so think about that. Like you're collecting all of your building hours here, or maybe it's a tech project, or maybe it's a workshop list that you've got going on, and you want to take that cumulative number and you want it to show up on your cumulative view over here without you having to keep going back and forth. So it would be right here. It was, I wanted to show up in this cell, and I want it to do that automatically. So here's what I absolutely adore is if you just press this equal sign, okay, it equals, this cell is going to equal, I'm going to jump to that sheet, and I want it to just equal that cell itself. See how the formula kind of carries with it? I want it to equal this particular cell. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And it's more than just the cell's address. You see it's pulling this tab with that particular cell. And you can see here, it's giving me that little speech bubble too, showing me that 1.9, and that's exactly what's in that cell. And then I'm going to hit the return button. And there it is. It shows up. Now you have to also remember, don't mess with it. Don't be changing things here. Don't be adding stuff, because this is the formula that we've built into this particular cell. So when I come back here, let's say I do another workshop and it's a 10-hour, maybe it was an all-day thing. Well, I haven't pushed that formula out, right? So now I'm just going to take this formula and I'm going to go all the way down. It's going to show me zeros because I have no value in these. Change this now to 2.9, and I'm just doing this so that you can see these formulas do work, they connect. And coming back to my cumulative view, it should now show 2.9, and it does. So you could always be going back and forth, and you can see like your overall here. And then you can see the individual and what those items are. Now think about how wonderful this is to have everything all in one spot. I have found it to be very helpful. And if your district, and I can't speak for all districts that this is going to be accepted or this is going to be valid, but for me personally, I still do give them the actual certificates. You know, I still have to follow all their rules and regulations. But for me, I track it this way for myself so that I know what it is that I'm doing. It's been incredibly helpful. And then again, if you keep going with your thinking, you bring down the formula. You know, you create the formula in here that adds up all of these cells. So this would be, the top one is going to be right here. It's going to be F3. I'm going to add up F3 all the way down to F27. So let's build that formula equals the sum of F3 to F27. And the one cell, I have only got 2 cells that I filled in information, and it will just continually add that information up. So really this front sheet, once you've got the linking done, it just becomes what it is that you want it to be. And it shows you your clock hours. Now, if you want to go even a little bit more advanced, you can put in a formula that tells you that this number is more like, we have some categories that you can't actually collect more than a certain number over here. So then you can copy the formula down and adjust per each whatever the max credit is. So I've got the formula in here. I didn't want to have to remember that on the fly. And you can see right here. So if F3, which is this cell with the 7 in it, is greater than or less than 6, no. And then this becomes the positive. So if it's less than 6, you're going to see an N there. If it's more than 6, you're going to see the yes. So what I would do then is, again, you could select all of this. You could copy it. You can paste it down. But remember, we're referencing F3. We need to make it say F4 for this new column. And this is just a matter of constantly looking at your formulas, making sure that they're accurate, making sure that they work. And then the max credit I can get for professional reading is just a 3. So I need to change that 6 to a 3. And you see how it changes to no. No, I have not reached my max on that one. And let's see what happens when we copy down. So again, it pulled the F5 and 3. Don't let that fool you. It's because these all 3 are 3 maximums. So just keep that in mind too. But hopefully this is a great way that you personally might be able to, or maybe share this with a team of teachers. And then how awesome would it be if you could just share this entire sheet with your professional development committee and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Here are all the workshops that I've gone to. Here are my certificates. And if you have other documentation or notes or links that you want to add in here, you've got it all housed in this one spot. And then they can look through all of your data, all of your information, and you're good to go for your certification. Questions on any of that?
It doesn't look like we have any questions.
Awesome. All right. So let's move on. Personalized mass emails. This is game changer. Okay. This is huge for me. I also coordinate our 8th grade DC trip. And if you can imagine being able to contact all of the parents, because not everybody goes, but also give them the information that they need, not all of the information that they don't need, and have it be specific to their kids, which kind of sounds like, if you think about it, when you want to email parents and you want to give them specific information about their child, not about everybody. And we're talking like on a larger scale here. We're not just talking about the one-off kind of emails that you do need to straight up just give to attention to one particular email. I'm thinking of a bigger, like, hey, conferences are coming up, and maybe you give a particular comment about your child. We'd really love to see you. We have X, Y, and Z concerns, or we'd really love to see you to celebrate Sarah's, recent accomplishments or whatever. But you don't want to type that email over and over and over and over again. Okay. So here's where I'm going to open the form responses that you guys filled out, that a lot of you filled out for me. And I'm going to show you how this is possible. And what I'm going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about sorting, finding data, and then we're going to use an add-on that I adore called Form Mule. It's wonderful. The company that creates Form Mule does a lot of other add-ons as well. So here is the response sheet. And really, having the data is a different conversation. You got to collect the parent email or emails, because sometimes parents have multiple different emails, right? Based on their households. You need to have, I like to have a name, because again, we're trying to personalize this. So having a student name in there. For our example, I'm going to use your emails. I'm going to use your first names and send you a little email. Now, we're going to use the Form Mule add-on. And add-ons are wonderful little third-party packages that you can add in to different Google apps. Now, Form Mule isn't going to work on a slide. Form Mule isn't going to work on a drawing. Form Mule is built specifically for sheets. Okay, so some add-ons you can use across a couple of Google apps, and some of them are targeted specifically for specific purposes, and this one is one of them. So I've already added it on to my account right here. And the way I did that was I went to this Get Add-ons menu, which we're not going to talk a lot about. I just want to preview this really quickly. There are a lot of really, really good add-ons in here. And what I would suggest you do when you have some time is come through here and just scroll, read about them, click on them, see what it is that they're offering to you. And you can do that just by, let's find one that I'm kind of familiar with. Let's go to, I love Awesome Table, but so let's go to Document Studio. So you click on it. That doesn't mean that you're adding it to your account yet. You can preview, and a lot of times they'll give you this little view of what their add-on is going to be doing. Now, please note, add-ons is one of those things that can be restricted by your domain. So if you're in a school domain, you may not be able to add this add-on. You may have to talk to somebody at that Google administrator level to be able to even, play around with it. Give them some good reason for being able to do this. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to add it on to everyone's account. So just be aware that this can be somewhat restricted or completely restricted just based on your school. But in this marketplace, the Google Workspace Marketplace, you can come through and you can read more about it. You can learn about it. So I already know that this is one that I really want to use. So I'm going to come to add-ons, Formule, and then I'm going to say launch. And yes, it's going to need my permission. And I'm going to give it permission. I'm going to use my email. It's got to think a minute. It's going to tell me all of the things. And if these make you nervous, you have two options here. You can either cancel out of it or you can allow it. If you cancel out of it, you're not going to be able to use Formule. This is one that I have been using for years. So if my word means anything to you, I would say allow. Give it a minute. And what we're going to basically do is, if you've ever done any kind of like mail merging, that's exactly what this is going to be. So we have to tell it which sheet we want to use. And I want to use form responses because that's the area where I've got my information. I'm not going to do these triggers because I'm going to set this email myself and I'm going to send it myself. So I'm not going to do the triggers. And I'm going to call this intro email. And I want to send it for all the rows. Again, you can go in here and you can pick any of these. So maybe not everybody answered what is your favorite color. So maybe I don't want to send them the email for this one. I'm going to send it for all rows though. So I'm going to save that. We got to let it do its thing. And based on how much data we have in here and what we're asking it to do, it might take a minute or two. And I'm going to build my preview. And here's where reading is crucial. So who am I going to send it to? Read the information right here. So I'm going to send it to the email address. Okay, and the carrots are going to be something that you're going to become very familiar with on here. Now I could also carbon copy it to someone. I can blind carbon copy it to someone. And then here's where it's really nice because I can tell any of these responses. So when you hit that reply button to this email, I can tell it which email to come to. So I'm going to go ahead and put my email address, and then I'm going to put in a subject. Notice there's really only two things that are required, which I kind of find interesting. The subject is required and the to. Obviously, you can't send an email if you don't put any email addresses in here. And the subject is required. Those are the only two that have those little asterisks. So I'm going to not intro. I would say intro to me, but let's call this level up responses. And then here's where we're going to actually build our email. And you say, well, Sarah, like this isn't really a whole lot different than in like Gmail or another email platform, but it is. It really is, because we can add in this information and put it over here in the body. So I might say, thank you, and address it. Remember, personalized mass emails. And I want to use that first name column. So I could say, thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Bonnie. But I'm writing the email once. Now, the thing that I want to point out to you that I have like a love-hate relationship with. Do you see how it says your first name only? And then it also has in the carrots, your first name only. It's going to show up right here. I don't want it to. So I'm going to delete that. I would consider it like a title. It's your column header. So I just wanted to say thank you for filling out the form. Now, if we just go that far and you want to see what this is like, because you don't want to go any further because you're not really sure what it really even looks like, this save and preview button is a wonderful piece of a wonderful tool to use within here. So you can see where it says, thank you, Lynn, for filling out the form. Now, here's the cool thing. You can actually toggle through all of your rows. And here's row 2. So you can see that it all goes through and you can go all the way through. I need to go back to edit, right? So it's working. If I had not taken off, so let's see what it looks like otherwise. Let's go back to, if I had left that in there, let's see what that would look like. You see how it says, thank you, your first name only, Liz, for filling this out. No go. No go. That's not good. Get rid of that. And then you can say something like any of these. You can add these in. You'd say, how old are you? Let's just say, so people were gave me an age is a great age to learn about sheets. So on and so forth. You're just going down, you're building out your email, and you're using these column headers to help you create that mass personalized email that you send. Now let's stop and think about this for a minute, and I'll give you a very specific use case that I did when I was a classroom teacher, 7th and 8th grade social studies. So it was right around conference time, and we get 2 nights of conferences and all that, and we wanted to send out an email for the link for our parents to sign up for our conferences, but we didn't want it to just be that, here, sign up for conferences. We wanted to give our parents some kind of information that kind of told them that we really did know who their kid was, and it wasn't this cold email. So I had already collected all the parents' emails, and I had obviously the students' names because they were our students. And then we created a 3rd column, and in that column, we chose to write in there a specific comment about each student. You know, so think about if you were wanting to let them know how proud you are of the student's growth that quarter, or, you know, you have some major concerns, would you please be able to make this conference time, kind of thing. And then we used Formule to be able to send this out. So it was directed to the parent of, and then we put in the student's name, Sarah. And then it was one of these tags said, you know, message. And I literally just pulled over that part, that little tag over here, and whatever we had filled in on that column showed up here. So I typically had about 150 kids. And yes, it did take time to go through and write out comments, but we weren't individually typing out all of these emails. And these were known email addresses that I had already used and collected and messaged with the parents through. And once we did that once, it was game changer, because our parents really responded to that. They really appreciated us sharing that we knew their kid, and we had great response to that mass personalized email. And then what you can do very easily, and I did this all the time, because then when you're ready to save and send, you're going to go back to that preview thing. And once you are happy with what it is that you have created as far as your template goes, again, it depends on how many rows of information that you have and how big your template is. Might take a minute to think. Still thinking. You'll have a button at the bottom that will allow you to send that email out, and it goes out. And it's fantastic. And I love it. And it's taking too long. I promise it works. We just have a lot of data in here, I guess. Okay, enough time on that one. Now that's just one add-on that you can use. Autocrat is another awesome add-on that you can utilize with Sheets. Copy Down is another fantastic one. I obviously don't have time today, especially looking at the clock now, to sit here and go through all of these different add-ons. But I do want to point you back to my resource here. I do have a tab at the bottom, which you can either scroll to the right. I like coming over here, going to these add-ons that I recommend, and I have a sheet full of different add-ons that you can read about a little bit, kind of see like how I've used them, for what purposes I've used them, and go down that route. Now that's mass personalized emails. Love it with Google Sheets. are we ready for something even more difficult?
Before we move on, we have 2 questions.
Yes.
So one is, what happens if you choose a tag that someone did not complete and you select it for the email?
That happens quite often. And the way you can either prevent it is, chances are you're probably collecting all of that information via a Google form anyway. Require that to be answered, and then you won't get any of those empty cells. But then also by deleting that, the title of the actual column. Oh, what's this one? Deleting the title that was up here, the how old are you or your first name is. If you delete it, it shows blank. Nobody knows that it's there. So for example, if Lynn had not put in her age, and I had said, it's a great, 50 is a great age, but she hadn't put in it would just be blank is a great age. Now that it's going to be a little bit goofy, but depending on what it is, that information you're collecting, you got to think ahead, and you got to think, do I absolutely have to have this information or not? But that's also where if you delete that column title, the merge tag header, it doesn't show. So everything else that you type in there will.
So we have 2 more. One is, could you create a Sparkline that tracks the progress from checklists in different tabs, like an overall project progress in the first tab?
I believe so, but clearly my track record today with Sparklines, you may not believe me, but it would be a matter of doing kind of like what I did with the professional learning, where I took this cell and I told it to show up over here. No, down here. Sorry, it was the 2.9. And it's pulling from that particular tab. So if you remember with that Sparkline, we were just basically going like C3, C2, because we were staying on that same sheet. Instead of it just showing D2, it would have to have the sheet name along with it as part of the formula. So it would be a long formula. Again, you may not want to take my word for that, but I do believe that that is possible. It sounds like maybe Inky would be a good one to answer that question.
And that's the last one. Is Inky is on the mic to say what she wants to say about the averages.
Yeah, if you want to go back to your gradebook.
Not that one. Hang on. Nope. There it is.
Okay. If you can leave I wouldn't leave the total points there. I would put the total points back in E2. I would put my formula for the total points there. The equal sum F2 to Y2.
Okay.
Okay, now that's going to be called an absolute reference, because absolutely you need to divide every student's total by 90.
Okay.
As opposed to a relative reference, like the first person has a total of 75 points. Okay, and when you look at their formula is like D3 to Y3. And I mean, F3 to Y, well, it should be, F3 to Y3. And then the next one is F4 to Y4, and then F5 to Y5. That's called relative, because it's relative to the row it's in. So what you want to do in your formula on your formula on E3, you want to do equal, which is their sum, which is F3 to Y3. So you're going to add up their points, F3 to Y3. And I guess you should put parentheses around that.
Okay.
And then you're going to divide that by the 90, which is in E2. But it has to stay always E2.
Okay.
So you're going to put a $sign E2. And then you're going to hit enter. And then you're going to fill down from that.
So I can just pull down.
Uh-huh.
Let's try it. I'm a little nervous. Nope, that worked.
Uh-huh.
Awesome. See, we learned things.
And then you can format that to be a percent, whatever you want.
Inky, can I ask if I come back up here to this formula, so that it does that, and I know I could go up to format and format the whole cell and all that. Can I multiply by 100 to give me?
Yeah, but you want to make sure you're doing my dear Aunt Sally, that you
Yes.
have the parentheses in the right spot.
Yep.
As long as you put the $ above whatever the cell reference is, it's going to always be that cell.
Awesome. Let's see. Love it. Inky, you're wonderful.
Well, I have to teach Excel enough. I'll much rather Sheets, by the way. I find it so much user-friendly.
I would agree with that. And I have a lot of people that tell me that they don't. Oh, shoot.
Now, wait. I have the, okay, go back up.
I go back. I gotta start at the top.
Okay, it's F. Okay, I gotta make sure the parentheses are right. I think it's going to, I don't think Y, I don't think that matters if it's Y or X. That doesn't matter.
So
And it should be divided by D2. That's what you have right there?
Yep.
D2, yes. Yeah, that's correct. And if you go to the next one, it should still say D2. No, it's going to D3. Okay, so then that's not, then the $, hang on a minute. I think the $ might have to be in a different spot. I should have looked that up, huh?
I have to parentheses it.
It's either that or the,
We're learning together. I get it.
it might be C $. It might be C $, D $3. Try that. The $ might be before the 2. Try that. And hit enter. And then drag it down. And let's see if it changed. Yeah, see how it's D $2. Now drag it down a couple and check and make sure it stays D $2.
Ah,
That's it. The $ was in the wrong spot.
I love it when we work together and
I learn as much from mistakes as I do from correctness. Because then you tend to remember more because you made the mistake.
right. And again, I think I do appreciate you coming on and helping me out with that, because I don't know it all, and I do make mistakes, and I, like you said, you learn from your mistakes, and isn't that what we say to our students all the time, is learn from your mistakes, like figure out how to make it better the next time. And
oh, Sarah, I've learned a lot from you. A lot.
And what I tell people too, I have so much more to learn. That's why I'm constantly reading. I'm constantly looking at different things. I'm trying stuff, and that kind of leads us nicely into the next one, which is Data Studio, which takes all of your sheets and it will ramp it up. But Data Studio highly intimidated me. I was terrified of it even after I tried it a couple of different times. And I found my people that I could really point to, and I could watch what they did. I could learn from them. And I tried a couple of Data Studio reports that failed horribly and didn't work at all like what I had hoped for them to. But it's been about a year and a half, and I have really come to embrace Data Studio on a very limited basis. So that was my big level up last summer. And let's jump to, thank you so much, Inky. I really do appreciate that. Let's jump to Data Studio, and Data Studio actually takes your sheet and it moves it out to a whole different ballgame. Okay, so I want to show you, you take all of this information on a Google Sheet. So thinking about information that I've collected here, and then I'm going to turn it into a report. And this is what a Data Studio looks like. This is like the backside. This is the editing part. But all of this comes from a sheet. It's all from a sheet. And it looks a whole lot nicer. Number one, it looks a lot better than sharing. And here's the sheet. Instead of sharing,
I didn't get that.
instead of sharing this with everyone, I'm sharing this with everyone. And again, this is the editing side. So if I want to see what it actually looks like, I could easily just go to my blog, because I've embedded it on my blog so that anyone can access this under the professional learning tab, which is another really cool thing that I found out. You could take the Data Studio report and embed it somewhere else. And it's all built off of a sheet, which my sheet is fed by information that I put into a Google form. So talk about using like a Google Sheet, adding in some formulas, adding in some colors, adding, merging cells and changing the direction of the text. Like now we've taken that sheet and look at what I created. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn. This is a very, very, very simple Data Studio report. But what I wanted to do is share out some really good and easy to access, free, low cost professional development opportunities. And up here, I've even got filters, which, yes, you could do filters in a Google Sheet. Yes, you can reorder things in a Google Sheet, but I found these filters to be a lot easier. Is there a particular topic that you're looking for? You can see I have 39 topics that I've tagged to teaching and learning, and all I have to do is click on that filter. And it's only going to show me now those 39 entries that I have tagged to teaching and learning. So I can always uncheck that again, and it brings them all back. What if I only want to find the ones that are free? I have 63 that show that are completely free. And then over here, what if I want to now do a second filter? And this is, I'm showing you the power of Data Studio because it was highly intimidating for me. But once I learned it, I was like, wow, this is really cool. And it's a lot nicer to be able to share out than the Google Sheet that it's built off of. So what if I want to see a free webinar? And I've taken all of those 101 that I had. I narrowed it down to the 63 that were free. And now I've narrowed it down to the 16 that are webinars. I can read a little bit about them. I could even search in here, and these are all links that will take you out to other places. So you say, well, Sarah, how in the world do you go from this over to this? Well, you have to create a Data Studio account. And again, if you're working inside an education domain, please know that this might very well be restricted. You might not be able to, but you can try it out in your personal account. Check that out. It's also a great way to learn and play. And the thing, again, I can't say this enough, is if you're lost as to what to do, check out the templates. They have some that are already pre-made. They have, you can explore with all this kind of stuff. And they even have a welcome to, and it kind of walks you through some step-by-step items. So you could build a blank report. And what it's going to do is it's going to create the basis of your report, and then you're going to connect it to you could connect it to other things. I have only stuck with Google Sheets at the moment. And what I want to connect it with is the response tab that you guys responded to, that Google form again. So you're collecting information from a form, putting it on a Google spreadsheet, and now putting it into Data Studio. And here you've got which one that you want, which tab do you want to work on? So I'm going to use the form responses one, and I'm going to go ahead and tell it to use the first row as headers. I don't want to include anything that's hidden, because if I've hidden it, I don't want it showing up in this report. I don't have anything hidden, by the way. And then I'm going to say add. And we're not going to have a whole lot of time to dig like super deep onto here, but it does give you a very quick report right here. And maybe I'm going to switch this with your first name. I'm going to swap that with the email. And you can see it kind of creates maybe what some people would consider pivot table-ish. So it tells me that there were 3 Karens. that responded. There were 2 Andreas. You can change the size of all of these, just like you can with the cells. And you can see that I'm going down. There's 63 different names that showed up. And you can tell it to do some, see the little drop down caret. When you view it, you can tell it to do the sorting. So it sorted it now from lowest to highest and the reverse. The really awesome thing about Data Studio is when you share out a report, what you do to the report does not impact anyone else that is currently also looking at that same information. So if everyone in this webinar went to my website and you went to Data Studio and you or went to this particular tab and was looking at this Data Studio report, everybody could be customizing the filters. You could be searching for different things all at the exact same time, and it doesn't change the view for anyone. It also means that they can't edit anything on there, which can be a really nice thing as well. One caution, please don't think of Data Studio as a means to share out grades. I've had a couple of teachers ask about, yes, you can restrict some things with emails, but it's just so much better to use your district's provided grading platform than you going and trying to create and having those oopsies, and then parents are seeing when you're thinking about private information as far as like students and parents and families go, don't go creating things that you're not real comfortable with and you don't feel that you have that solid information about. But Data Studio, love it. You can collaborate with Data Studio. You can change colors, the layouts. You can add in columns. You select that again, and maybe we want to add another dimension over here. Nope, there's only the one dimension. We want to add it down here. And it's a matter of dragging and dropping. Now, is this really making a whole lot of sense? Not necessarily, but you can go through and go really wild and crazy. So Data Studio is one of those that really, if you really want to level up here, excellent. And it looks like, because I remember Liz did not put in an age, or her age was a very different thing. And these 3 Karens must in total be 139 years old, you know, as it sums up. Hey, there's a little bit of formula work. Data Studio, wonderful tool to use. And then the very last one with the last few minutes that I've got is Glide Apps, which takes your sheet, because Data Studio is one look to how you can share out a Google Sheet, and it's wonderful. But Glide Apps is like a whole different ballgame. If you've ever had that itch of like, I want to create a Glide app, I did an entire webinar with Desiree, gosh, I want to say last year, like May-ish time. It would be on Desiree's YouTube channel. It's amazing to use Glide Apps to create your own app. And it's all, again, all built off of a Google Sheet. I really wish we had some more time, but we're running out of it very quickly. But they also do have some templates. Some of them are specific for education. I did write a blog back during the pandemic when all of the schools were shut down, and I helped a teacher create a way to, because Google Classroom had not yet added in that like to-do section. So students and parents weren't real sure what it was that they still needed to do, had to do, couldn't do, or all those different things. So she and I worked out and we built a Google Sheet that ended up becoming a Glide app, because the sheet is what's feeding this. And I wrote about it. I've got the information. Come back to this one. I wrote about it here. This distance learning tracker app allows you to share out some information, and it was restricted by parent email. So I can't say enough about Glide Apps. If you've been itching to create an app, or you want to work with creating apps and feeding it from a Google Sheet, it really is an incredibly useful tool. And now you say, well, Sarah, like, wow, you had some things that really did level it up, even to a point where unless I sat here and played with it a lot more, I probably wouldn't be too successful with it. Don't be afraid of Google Sheets. I know that I started off a little bit rocky, but thanks to Inky, we were able to work some things out, try things. And I will also say I have a lot of ready to go activities right here in this Wakelet that I've got linked. And these are not just my templates, but these are ones that other teachers have put out there and shared. If you're going, okay, Sarah, you showed us a lot of different ways, like I as a teacher can use it, but what about like using it with students? And I've got a checkbook. A group of teachers wanted to do like one of those little simulation cities, and they wanted to use a checkbook to incorporating some basic formulas with their students. So I have a checkbook template that you can go ahead, use, take, and customize however you'd like. My colleague, Beth Kingsley, created a guided reading levels graph. I've used Sheets to help students better understand fractions. If you think of each of those cells as a part of a fraction, you could have some pretty massive fractions, or you could have some very easy fractions. I've used Google Sheets to create student planners so students can track their homework. They can type it in themselves. You as the teacher can create that, share out that Google Sheet so that parents can easily see what the homework is. We based it, I actually did this with my oldest daughter. She wanted to do something digital. So we literally pulled out her paper planner and we recreated that on a Google Sheet. Got the glide apps in there. Here's some pixel art. Flippity is another one that I cannot say, and this is the one that I promised I would show you how to do the progress bar a whole lot easier for those of us that are just starting out with it. Flippity.net, all of these activities, every single one of these activities is all based off of a Google Sheet. And he gives you a demo, he gives you the instructions how to do it, and he also provides the template. So you take that template and then you customize it how you want. Top ones here are turning a spreadsheet into the random name picker. This you can create a Jeopardy game style. Love these little flippity flashcards. It's not just flashcards there. It turns all of your information into multiple different ways your students can be studying. You could create a little, almost like a breakout with, having questions, they have to answer them and then they unlock the locks. But what I want to show you down here is this progress indicator. It's really nice. So let's go to his demo. And you've got to think on the back end, this would be one column. And then knowing the unit over here, he's got various units for these students just to show that it doesn't have to be the same unit because it's all built on a sheet. What the total is that they're reaching for, like, so this would be their ultimate goal. And then this is where they currently are. So think about that Sparkline. This is really what we're kind of creating right here as a progress indicator. Now, again, please be always conscious of sharing out this information. This is a website. So you could post this in your Google Classroom, your other LMS. Sharing it out via email to parents may not be the most advisable unless it's something that is acceptable for everyone to be able to see. A teacher that I worked with kind of flipped this a little bit, and each student had their own. That can be a little bit cumbersome, but just know that these things are all possible. And probably my biggest tip is you don't have to start from scratch on everything. You could take a copy of this, play around with it, teach yourself how he created these things, and then sky's the limit for you. With that, we have about 10 minutes left. Desiree, I'm going to pause here, stop here, and remind people that all of the information is right here on this resource, which is linked on our, don't want to go back to that one. Bad memories. No, I'm just kidding. Which is linked on our website about leveling up with Google for this summer. So I will pause there.
Can you show when you go to the website, just because we have some new people and I've been getting private messages, when you go to the website, where do you go to get the resources?
The resources are right here. They're labeled Google Docs presentation resource, Google Sheets presentation resource. And what they'll do is they link you to this wakelet, and on the wakelet, you can come right here. This is the main presentation that I've created right here. And everything is linked within that presentation.
Including the sheet that you used.
Yes, this takes you to see the little preview right here. This will take you to this sheet right here.
Perfect. Okay, so what I'm going to do at this time is see if we have any questions in the chat. I'm also going to make it to where you can unmute yourself. So as of now, you can unmute yourself and let us know if you have any quick questions with our last couple of minutes.
Hi, hello, my name's Diane. I'm a teacher in Bahrain, and thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you so much, Dr. Alexander. Please, I'm fascinated by Glide app. I came across it last summer, and I just wondered if I could find some more information. Is it on your website? It just seems it might be the answer to what I'm looking to do.
Glide apps, you can, on this tab on the resource, it will show you the link to their website, which will take you up to this website right here. I did use their idea. I used their platform to create this distance learning tracker. So if you click on this blog post, it will walk you through how I created that, what it kind of looks like. I even provided a template if you wanted to do the same thing. But on their website, you can look at any of these pre-created templates, or just by logging in.
Okay, so just go to the website.
Yeah, there's so much in here that's just, I was floored when I saw it.
I was too in summer when I saw it, because I was hoping to make some kind of diary where I could probably use a Google form to get to. I don't know if I could get to linked calendar. I could get linked to the app. Am I asking for a lot?
You can certainly add in links. So another way that I have used Glide apps heavily is I've made like a to-do list app for our DC trip. So each student has a row, and it'll show what their current balance is. It will show when we get further on, like you bought a t-shirt, have you paid for that t-shirt? Have you filled out your student behavior contract? Have you turned in your medication information? And I can go through and I can include a link to, okay, well, if you haven't done this, please go to this website. And then it does navigate you out of the app. But I'm like, that's, to be able to personalize, it's like taking that mass personalized email and having it constantly available to them. And Glide apps do show on a desktop, it would show on a tablet, and it also shows on your phone. So you can see it. It looks it looks slightly different on the computer because it's really truly made to be on your phone.
And I did post the link to Sarah's webinar that she did, building app for your classroom, and she talked about Glide. So I did post that in the chat, and I will also link it to anyone watching this on YouTube. I'll link it in the description.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for this. A lot of people are commenting, they really like the way that you worked through anything that happened, because it gave them, it mirrored what they do and gave them hope that they can work through issues. So thank you so much for that. And just all the work you put in getting these free 2-hour webinars together, not just the time that you come and spend with us, but the time that you take putting together all of the resources and everything. Like we honestly just cannot thank you enough.
Thank you. I really do love sharing. I do.